Hello, welcome to our monthly webinar series. I'm Jo Faustgen, and I'll be presenting Anger Management, Calming the Anger Within for you today. And I'm hoping it's insightful for you. I'll be taking little tidbits from famous people such as Albert Ellis, David Burns, David Decker, as well as showing you things that I've learned from doing 20 years of facilitating my own anger management group. So I'm hoping it's helpful for you. Objectives today for you to learn if you have an anger management problem. We'll be talking about myths. We'll be talking about criteria to change and what I label as the 8 basic principles of anger management and the anger volcano, exploring what that is, and mistaken beliefs, and how to use the calming technique and stress coping thoughts to help us in working through our anger, as well as a few hints for disagreements. Let's get started. Anger is a part of our everyday life, and it can happen from the time we are a toddler and we're not getting the food we want at the time we want, or it can be an elderly person who isn't getting what they want and they're not happy with life. So, it can happen because it's a natural emotion. And sometimes it's very helpful for us. Actually, sometimes it's protective. Sometimes we can, if we are in the midst of an intimidating person and we shout at them, "Get away from me," okay, that can be very helpful and protective. Sometimes it can help us to be assertive, and it can, as we recognize that we're angry, we can recognize that we need to say something. So it can be very motivating to actually make a change, to actually say something about what is going on inside. But sometimes we use it negatively and destructively. And so we want to work through those times. I remember when I was little, I was like this little girl over here on the left. And I remember playing Foursquare with a friend of mine, and I all the time would accuse her of cheating because she was cheating. And she would accuse me back of cheating. And so we'd argue back and forth, and I'd run back home and I get all upset. So I guess I did have some issues back when I was even little. And then when I was a freshman in college at the University of Minnesota, when it was in the midst of the Vietnam War riots, I accidentally got in a group who was rioting and was experiencing mob violence. They were tearing down the fence on Washington Avenue. And I also experienced and saw some police brutality. So unfortunately, I was just standing on the corner waiting for a bus, and this mob just kind of rushed at me. It wasn't a fun experience. It was really destructive, and it took me by surprise, and it was very difficult to get through. How can you tell if you have an anger problem? Well, if it lasts too long, like days, weeks, months, years, if it happens too often, if it's too intense, if it creates fear in other people, if people have told you you're intimidating or controlling, if it interferes in your relationships, if you're trying to control other people, if you're trying to get revenge. And sometimes what I found with people is that it becomes so destructive that you want that power, you want that domination over people. So this is where it becomes a problem. Have you ever done any of these violent acts to people? Grabbed, slapped, pushed, shoved somebody? Have you thrown things? Have you broken things? Have there been legal consequences to your anger? Has anyone ever told you have an anger problem? What I found is that spouses and mothers are particularly good at telling people that they have an anger problem. Do you tend to have a negative attitude? Are you cynical, sarcastic? Do you blame people, badger people? Are you brutally assertive? Do you use the silent treatment? In other words, you're going to make people pay by not talking to them for weeks at a time. And does your anger ever get worse when you've been drinking alcohol? All signs that you have something going on inside of you. And so there's some myths about anger that I'd like to present to you. Number one, outside people, outside events, and other people make me angry. That is a myth because other people don't make me angry. I make myself angry. You might be a trigger for me, outside events might be a trigger for me, but you are not creating the emotion in me. I am creating it. I am responding to the trigger in the external environment that I see and feel and experience. Two, once I get started getting angry, I can't stop. But you can. It's been proven over and over and over. If you want to badly enough, you can use your brain to change that. Okay? We're not animals. We are not run just by instinct. We can change. Which comes to number three. Look at number two and number three. There's a commonality there, the word can't. I encourage people to erase the word can't. It's not in your vocabulary anymore. What you can say to yourself is, I can learn how to change this. I can learn how to be less angry. I can learn how to express myself respectfully. I can do it. Four, it'll take a long time to do this. And it might, but it also might be able to make a change in you right now. Okay? So even today, after you learn some of the tips that I've given you, you can start today. That's the good thing about this. The four necessary criteria for change, what I call SMSI. Self-awareness, motivation to change, skills, and implementing. Because you might have the self-awareness of what's going on inside of you. You might have enough motivation to change. You might even have the skills, such as the ones I'm going to show you today. But if you don't implement them in your life, they're not going to work. So you might know everything, but not do it. So it takes a combination of all of these. The consequences for uncontrolled anger are many. So it could be loss of job, loss of relationship, loss of family, loss of marriage, loss of respect for yourself and maybe other people if they have the anger management problem. Can fuel aggression. It might start these police calls, all these things through the court system that you don't want to have on your record. It might even cause a lot of stress and anxiety for you internally, especially if somebody else is doing it to you. And it may lead to heart problems for yourself and immune problems for you. Okay, what are your triggers? Very important so you can work against them. Work proactively with them. Money is a big one, whether that's debt, or maybe you lost your job, or you're not able to pay the rent or the mortgage, or you've overspent or whatever. For me, kids, when they were little, were a big motivator, a big trigger for me. In other words, my kids would say, Mom, how come you're so nicey nice on the phone? You get off and you start screaming at us. And I would look at them with this glare and I would say, well, if you would do what you're supposed to do, I wouldn't have to get angry at you. Okay, good defensiveness, right? Yeah, I was full of defensiveness because I thought I had a right to do this. I had a right to get angry at you. So there's all kinds of triggers and they can change daily. Traffic is another big one. Your past mistakes. Have you ever gotten angry at yourself for making a mistake? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we carry that internally and we put ourselves down, and we sometimes do the same for other people making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay. Or maybe it's bad decisions you make. Maybe you're a procrastinator and you start beating yourself up because you didn't do things on time. I should have done this differently. I should have done it earlier. What are your triggers for your anger? And what do you look like when you're angry? Do you look like any of these people? So the lady on the left, okay, she's like this. She's got these wide eyes, okay, and her eyeballs are just bulging out, gritting her teeth. She's looking like this. She's not, eyes are different, okay. She's like this, okay. But her fists are like this, and her whole body is tense. What does that look like on the other side of you? Okay? And the guy on the top, finger pointing, scowling. The guy in the bottom. This is what I call the hate stare. And I had this when my kids were little. And I didn't know I had it until I looked in the mirror when I was angry. It's not very constructive for a relationship. And so when we're all about anger, when we're all about anxiety, fear, have you ever found that fear triggers your anger? The classic for that is the mother sees her child running out in the street. She says, Johnny, get out of the street. And it sounds like anger to the child, but the mother is full of fear. She doesn't want her kid to get run over. And so when you're full of emotion, it's all about the amygdala. When you're full of especially fear and anxiety and anger, all of the synapses are going into this little tiny part of the brain called the amygdala, little pea-sized part of the brain. And you're not able to think rationally when you're all about emotion. So we need to be able to calm down to get out of that. And so this is how I see anger. Sometimes it's like a volcano. We just spew it out at everybody, okay? And we just explode. Or sometimes it just kind of slithers out. Sometimes it's a little spurt. But look at what is underneath. There's a lot of stuff underneath. We have to heal the stuff underneath in order to heal the anger. So what's boiling up from underneath? All these feelings that we are having. Sometimes we don't even know what we're feeling at the time. But these have all been identified by people in my anger management group and more. Look at the thoughts below. Mistaken beliefs that cause us trouble in our life. This is one of the most therapeutic things you can do for your brain and for your anger, for your emotion problem, is to look at, do I have any of these mistaken beliefs? The first three are the most important for anger. The need to be right, the need to win, and the need to control. There's so many people, so many of us that have that. When my kids were little, yes, that's what I had. Sometimes as an adult, too, we need to fix. We want to fix. You're wrong. You're helpless. I want to fix you. But then it leads to our anger and destructive conversation happens. Maybe it's a need to avoid conflict. And so you don't say what you need to say and then you explode. Or I'm entitled. I'm entitled to this and I'm not getting it, so I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get angry at you. I'm going to get angry at the boss. I'm going to get angry at everybody because life is not fair. Look at the life should be fair. Well, life should be fair. What's the matter with that? Yes, it should be fair, but it often isn't. And so if we believe so strongly that life should be fair and it's not, and we experience the unfairness of life, we get angry. And sometimes it gets destructive. That destructive anger is not helpful. Go back to the second list. I am superior. I have a right to get angry. I'm a rebel. I don't like doing the rules. I'm going to get angry and I'm going to rebel against everything you want me to do. I'm a victim. Everything happens to me and nobody understands. I'm a martyr. A martyr is a victim with an ego. And so a martyr suffers better and longer and harder and more than everybody else. If you ever tried to work with a martyr, they're very hard to work with. And then life should be fun. Well, what's the matter with that? Life should be fun. But if that's the way you live your life, what happens when you need to be responsible, like to pay your bills, like to be responsible for being with your kids? Life can't always be fun. So sometimes I get angry if I can't have fun all the time. I need to take off and go hunting all the time and take off and go shopping all the time. Sometimes we need to be responsible. Like the next one, people are stupid. I hear this from a lot of people. People sometimes make stupid mistakes. We all make mistakes. Can there be some flexibility in your belief system to allow for the fact that some people don't always make stupid mistakes? Because if you keep running your life like that, you may not trust people, you may not like people, and then you become bitter and angry. And it's hard to work with them. Life is terrible. Life is awful. I'm going to catastrophize everything. I'm going to go to extremes, and I'm either one extreme or the other. Can there be some wiggle room in the middle so that your beliefs don't necessarily make it so hard to deal with you? So I want you to look at your mistaken beliefs that might cause you anger and anxiety and stress problems. These are very, very important things. And then are you aware of your anger or stress in the moment? Right when you're having them, right when you're so angry, so stressed out, you need to be aware in the moment so that you can work against it and work with your system in a different way. The body signs of escalation. You've probably experienced this. Your heart's pounding and you feel like your blood pressure is increasing. You're breathing faster and more shallow, and you're getting tense all over, racing thoughts, talking faster than you usually do. All this energy, and you feel like you go out and lift weights and run a mile. Bodily signs of escalation. You need to be aware of what's happening in you so you can be proactive. The first tool for anger management, even for anxiety management, is to catch yourself escalating before you get up to the top. Stop yourself before you get there. Catch yourself as those bodily signs are happening. To tell yourself, actively tell yourself, stop, calm down, slow down, breathe. 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 Repeat it over and over. If you don't remember anything that I say today, I'd like you to remember this. So important to be able to catch yourself before you get to the top, to be able to moderate your emotions so that they're not so extreme. And so this is what I call the calming technique. You catch yourself escalating. You allow yourself to calm down because it's an act of the will. You need to get your brain involved to be able to will to calm down. Sometimes we get so angry, we feel so justified, we don't want to calm down. We don't want to stop being angry, right? I've heard that from people many times. But is that going to be destructive for you internally and maybe for anybody you talk to? Might be. Allow yourself to let it go. Let it go, and then you can feel like you can master your thoughts and emotions. You're going to feel better about yourself when you can do that. Tool number 2, diaphragmatic deep breathing. I've taught this to so many people, and it is so helpful to calm the body down. So you put one hand on your abdomen and one on your chest, and you lean back, and you allow your abdomen to rise more than your chest. And you add square breathing to this. You breathe to a count of 4 by telling yourself just relax and breathe. So practice along with me, please. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And do this several times in a row. And when I do this with people and when I ask them, how do you feel after doing it just a few times? And they say, I feel better. I feel calmer. I feel more relaxed. It's amazing. It's our own natural body system to do this. So we don't necessarily need calming medications all the time. We can do it naturally. And so here are what I call the 8 basics of anger management. Anger can trigger this fight or flight response, fight or flight or freeze response, I will add to that. And it goes right into the amygdala, the very internal base of the brain. And this is where the sympathetic nervous system is just kind of going on. It looks like caffeine overdrive, okay? We need to engage the calming system of the body to think rationally. So you get the opposite part of the body going, the parasympathetic system with diaphragmatic deep breathing. That's the fastest way to get the parasympathetic system in play. 3, understanding triggers and reasons. We talked about the triggers and those reasons underneath. Sometimes those things are also boiling up underneath. Sometimes there's been past emotional, sexual, or physical abuse to you. And somebody says something in the current time to you that triggers that memory. And bingo, you are escalating. Past memories that you remember something that happened to you, maybe not abuse, but something that happened, and it triggers that fight or flight response or past trauma. So you need to know if any of that's going on in you too. When I do couples counseling, oftentimes I hear past sexual trauma, past emotional trauma that triggers in a current marriage or a current couple relationship. So we need to be aware of that in ourselves, but also in the person we are relating to. Number 4, with enough motivation, you can change a habit that's been ingrained for years. Remember, we need to find that motivator that's going to bring us to 100%, 80, 90, 100% motivated to work on our stuff. And number 5 and 8 are extremely important here. If you don't remember any of the rest of these, please remember 5 and 8. The expression of anger is a choice. It may be conscious or unconscious, but it is a choice. It's a choice that our brain makes. There's nobody else in our brain that's making us do it. We are doing it. And so the more you recognize that it is a choice, you can recognize that you can have control over that. You can moderate it. You can calmly express it, but you need to calm yourself down and let it go first. To be able to say respectfully what you want to say. You might need to take a break. Some people do. And hopefully that the person that you're talking with will allow you to take a break if you need that. But then you need to come back and talk when you're both calm. 8, we all need to take personal responsibility for our own anger. Nobody else is making me angry. I am making myself angry. Regardless of the trigger, regardless of the justification for my anger, I can still work on it and moderate it so that it's not so escalated and so destructive. And so stress coping thoughts are so important. I teach this to people all the time, and it's so helpful for people. They keep a list of coping thoughts with them wherever they go, one day at a time, one thing at a time. I'm going to do what I can do. I got to let it go. I can only do what I can do. I can't do any more than that. Somehow things will work out. I don't know how, but I can't worry about everything right now. Calm down. Take a deep breath. Relax. Things have to get better. I know I got people that can help me. Find your coping thoughts for whatever situation you are in, whether it be an illness, whether it be a pandemic, whether it be frustration with your family, frustration with your job. They're so important to find. And then relaxation tools. We all know some, but do we all always put them into play when they are needed? Taking walks to get away from the stress of family or job, very important. Meditation, prayer. I have people who are doing music and dance, artistic, painting. Maybe you need a hobby to get out some of that stress, but it needs to be a hobby that is stress relieving for you, not stress producing. Can you take some mini vacations during the day where you just take 5 minutes to relax and breathe? Can you call a friend? Does that relax you? Can you just focus on your easy breathing to help you get to sleep? Relaxation tools are so important for all of us. Find what helps you relax. There's even an app, a Calm app. If you can do that, it's wonderful. I'm sure there's other ones too. These are four tools that you can use to help you. More hints for relaxation. I think we're kind of an over-caffeinated society. If we decrease our caffeine, it's amazing how much less anxiety and stress and anger sometimes we will have, because it's only escalating us. Slow your pace down. When I kind of sense that I'm just kind of like this, I tell myself, just take it down a notch, Mary Jo, take it down a notch. And that in itself can help. Have some fun in life. Remember how to have fun. Some of us become so serious in life, we forget how to have fun. Play with your children. Remember how carefree you were as a child. Just look at children playing. They're so innocent, they're so playful. Sometimes we just need to remember that. And be aware of your own cognitions, those mistaken beliefs, as well as your own anxiety in the moment, so you can calm yourself down. Do minute by minute check-ins if you have to. What's going on with me here? Okay, do I need to relax? Do I need to express? What do I need to do here? This is an interesting slide. Is this what you look like when you're doing arguments with people? Which side are you on? Are you using that decibel level to express and to increase your volume level, because the louder you are, the more you're heard? Unfortunately, some of us do that. It's pretty destructive. So I will encourage you not to do it that way. Let's look at some tips that I can give you that might help. So here's some hints for disagreements. First of all, calm yourself down. Sometimes you might even know you're going to have a disagreement before you have it, because you know it's kind of a sensitive subject. So calm yourself down before you talk to that person, before you talk to the boss, whatever that is. Be able to kind of look at the scenarios that might be happening. What might that person say? What can you say respectfully back to that person? You know, kind of play it through in your head a little bit first. And when you're working with that person, listen to understand them. So when you're listening, and I'm not going to go through all the attentive listening stuff that you've probably heard before, but to be able to listen to somebody else, to understand their point of view, because they have a right to a different point of view, right? You have a right to a different point of view as well. So that's where you know your rights. You have a right to disagree. You have a right to express that. You have a right to say no. You have a right to say maybe, let me think about it. So you need to be able to know your rights when you are talking, especially with somebody who's very intimidating and articulate and loud. Okay? Stop catastrophizing. If you're always kind of on that extreme of, you know, you're never listening to me, you can't understand me, you won't understand me, calm it down. You can ask to be understood. You can talk respectfully yourself in I statements. I will ask that you please try to respect where I am at. I will ask you please to listen to my point of view. I will ask you to respect the fact that I have a right to disagree with you. I disagree, and maybe we just need to say that we will agree to disagree. Okay? No you statements. Why? Because the other person on that other side of you, when you say you don't understand, you don't listen to me, you feel blamed. And what that can start is the attack and defend dynamic. In other words, I'm going to attack you, so you're going to feel defensive and you're going to try to defend yourself. Then I'm going to attack you back, or you attack me and I'm going to get defensive. Very destructive. Happens with a lot of arguments. Okay. And stop taking things so personally, because it doesn't help. I always say to people, don't do things that don't help. Only do things that help. So if you do tend to take things personally, that can add to your anger, that can add to your anxiety. Calm it down a little bit. And if things are only escalating, ask to be able to leave and readdress the situation later when you're both calmer. But then you might need to ask, can we talk about this now? Are you feeling like you can talk to me? Will you talk to me? I'm calmer. Are you calmer? So those are some hints. And what I've done after, all these years of doing anger management for people, doing anger management assessments, I have written a book called Calming the Anger Within, which I think brings a lot of these things into kind of a very concise workbook. The first part of the workbook is all about what we're talking about now. The second part is about basic communication and conflict resolution, and how to know yourself, and how to know a little bit more about what might bring you into those anger problems. So I encourage you, if you're interested to learn more and you're wanting a workbook on this, to go on my website, maryjofaustgen.com, and to be able to explore the idea of getting this workbook for yourself. I will not suggest that you get this workbook for somebody else and plop it down and say, here, you need to work on your anger. People usually don't like that. So work on your own anger, and maybe you can even share with that other person what you've gotten out of the book. Hey, this is what helped me. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in learning any more about this. That's what you can do. Okay, that's respectful. And so we've gone through some anger management techniques, some relaxation techniques, and I'm hoping you're going to remember the 4 tools that I shared with you. That first one, catch yourself escalating in anger using the calming technique. The second one is diaphragmatic deep breathing. The third one is going to be stress coping thoughts, okay, and finding those that work for you. And then the fourth one is any relaxation techniques that you can use that will help you. I'm hoping these can help you as you go forward. I'm hoping this was insightful for you. And I thank you for joining me. And I encourage you to listen to my next webinars, which are going to be on the basics of communication and communication for couples and families. So thank you so much again for joining me today.